This episode of Armchair Expert is presented by Apple TV, the new U.S. home of Formula One. Starting March 7th, you can watch complete all-access live coverage of every Grand Prix, including practice, qualifying, and sprints, all in one place. Watch every race live only on Apple TV. Hi, Monty. How are you?
I'm good.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did have a good weekend.
Anything spectacular happen?
Nothing spectacular, which is a good weekend.
Okay.
You know, relaxing weekend. I'm moving this week.
Friday?
I'm sleeping there on Friday.
Oh my God, Monica's been building a house across the street for what, 6 years?
It'll be 6 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, so I am very excited. So this week is a big week because there's a lot of moving parts and getting the stuff over.
I wonder if any of your attachment theory stuff is coming up.
Oh, I hope. I'm so obsessed with attachment theory. I'm so glad you're here because I'm obsessed with it and I don't think I really understand it. And I think a lot of people feel that way. They reference attachment theory a lot, but I don't know if we're all doing it correctly.
Right, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions, for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to learn.
Where are you from, Amir?
Originally, I grew up in Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you find this to be true that the Israelis, they tick up highest on the disagreeability category? We've had a lot of experts talk about that.
Oh, that Israelis disagree a lot? Oh, yeah, it's part of our culture.
Yeah, I like it.
Not only that, it's just also what other people, I think, it took me time, what Americans would consider being rude.
Yeah.
It's actually just normal way of speaking. If you don't think, there's this thing that you go they go like that, which is no, I don't agree with you.
Right,
so that would be considered so rude. No one would speak like that here.
Do you know Orna, that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does she work at NYU in some capacity?
I think she does. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I know her work, yeah.
But you're at Columbia as a
I am
researcher.
at Columbia, yeah.
Well, we had her on, and I was saying to her, she has this wonderful gift of, she's endlessly hopeful and empathetic. And also, and I asked her, I'm like, is this the Israeli site? You can also on a dime be like, okay, disagreeable time. You're very comfortable in the disagreeability. I'd say I'm high on the disagreeability.
It's not only that, I think that's how I got into Columbia to do my residency there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I went to medical school in Jerusalem, and they said, don't bother, they don't take foreign medical graduates. And I said, okay, I'll just go, and at least I'll get to talk to all these interesting researchers, and I read about the research and some of the people I knew about the research. Because usually you go to grand rounds, and you just you spend a day on the wards. And I said, no, I want to meet with the researchers.
Yeah.
So then I met with one guy who seemed kind of old and very sort of non-threatening. And I knew about his work. So I told him how much I liked his work, but it could have been improved because there's all these different shortcomings in his methodology, and it sort of went on and on. Because I didn't think, I was just what do I have to lose?
You had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he said, okay, I want you to meet with a few more people. And he called a few more people around. It was the Department of Epidemiology. Yeah. And they all got together and wrote a letter on my behalf to the head of the residency program.
No kidding.
And that's how I got in.
That's great.
Oh, I love that. Well, am I right, or at least to believe from this book, that you were originally definitely aiming at being a therapist of some variety? Yeah.
I still am a therapist.
Yes. But the original site was set up.
I was going to be a psychoanalyst. I had my mind set on being a psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
And that's how I basically ended up where I am today, in a completely unexpected way, because back then, in order to become a psychoanalyst, you had to do a year of analysis before going into analytics school.
I love this.
Yeah. Personal analysis?
Your own analysis.
Oh.
4 times a week on the couch, talking or whatever. They sit behind you. You don't see them.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've had numerous. In fact, we just had someone on who was they themselves were a therapist, and they got to a point in their life where they had to return to therapy, and how much there can be a resistance to that, even from therapists.
Yeah, Freud said that there's always resistance. It's kind of built into the treatment.
Yeah.
There's always, that part of the work as a therapist is working through those resistances.
Yeah.
Yeah, so during this year of therapy, you came to realize in some free association that you really still yearn for the biological and the
So I was going to do potentially epidemiological research, but then during that time, I was looking for something that the kind of research that I wanted to do. And I got some advice, and they said, a researcher's life is a really hard life. A scientist's life is really hard. So you better choose something that you're really interested in because it's going to be a rough ride. And so I looked to see what I really liked. And I've always had an affinity to basic science and to molecular research, but I didn't really pursue molecular. I didn't have a PhD, but I really liked it. And it was the analyst who said, well, maybe you should give it a try. But he didn't really know what it means. I didn't barely knew even how to hold a pipette. But I found this one paper that I really, really liked about long-term memory and how long-term memory is conserved and epigenetic changes in those neurons in aplesia, which is a sea slug.
That has enormous neurons?
Yes, huge neurons. And then I went, and again, I guess that theme of going and talking. So I went and I talked to the last author on that paper.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the one who masterminded it. So he listened to me for 2 minutes. His name was Eric Kandel.
Yeah.
And then he basically said, you know what, here, let me take you up. Let's go up let's go up a floor. And we went, and that's where I met James Schwartz.
Jimmy.
Also, it's like Jimmy, my first mentor. And I basically talked to him a little bit about my thoughts again, the same thing about like the research and the ideas that I had. And then he said, okay, we'll sort of give you a try for 3 months and see how you fare. And then we'll see what happens after that. So there I was, going into the lab, which I've never imagined that I would do, behind the bench, studying all these molecular experiments.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Now, do you think you had a primary question about life in humans that you thought was going to be answered in psychoanalysis or the pursuit of it and the practice of it, and that you saw in this epigenome work, oh, maybe the answer lies over here, or had not even occurred to you yet? Do you think you had like a driving curiosity, like a primary question?
I really did want to understand what makes human tick.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to understand the brain better. But I don't think that at the time I had a specific idea.
Yeah.
I've always had this thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
And which maybe will explain why I did what I did, because at that time I was almost done with my residency. And it's been many years going through medical school and then coming here and doing another year of internship. I had to do 2 years. I had to repeat a year of internship and then do another, then I did adult psychiatry, which is and then child psychiatry altogether another 5 years. So after doing all that training...
You were 71 years old.
Seriously, you're aging backwards.
And one would think, okay, it's time to make money, right? You have to open up your private practice and sort of start making money. And then instead I said, no, wait a second, I still really want to learn more, and I'm going to take a salary which maybe is like a tenth of the amount and just continue with my education and learning. And but I didn't even think about it that way at the time. Now, looking back, I can see, whoa, these are important years where you could have saved money for retirement. It didn't occur to me at all. I just really wanted that pursuit of knowledge. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I went to the lab, and then for many years, I did a lot of molecular biology work.
Okay, so I'll overshare with you. So I ended up doing anthro, and I really think about why I did anthropology. I think I was immediately drawn to the fact that, there's a lot of different ways you can live. And I think that was comforting because, again, I felt like with the single mom and all these other things that we didn't click so well with the culture I inherited. And so I was quite critical of the culture I inherited. And I wanted to know, do we have any basis to think that this is the way we should do things? So I guess I'm wondering for you, can you think of any kind of, primary angst?
I mean, definitely the pursuit of knowledge is a huge one. Yeah. And I grew up in that environment. I had a very unusual upbringing. My mom had an even more unusual upbringing. She grew up basically the way that the education that she received, it was very, very progressive. They didn't care about grades at all. They didn't have exams. they just like would give them just like comments about what they
Essays
did.
and-
Yeah, and so it was like she lived in a kibbutz, so it's like a commune. So they had to work a lot, so also agriculturally. They didn't live with their parents,
Oh, interesting.
right? They lived in, so they wanted everyone to be equal, so they
Yeah.
sort of separated. It's kind of crazy.
whoa.
Yeah.
So she
Oops.
came from a very, very unusual, her upbringing was very unusual.
Yeah.
I mean, although, but I grew up in Jerusalem. I grew up in a sort of a regular with my parents. But she didn't believe in grades, and she didn't really care about school so much. So I could actually stay home whenever I wanted from school. And I did. I stayed home a lot, and we had this huge library, and I would read a lot. Even it was completely uncensored. So like even like at 7, I was like, look, I would read the Kama Sutra. I would ask my mother, I would read the Kama Sutra, and like I was trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Or other really like different books that I read at the time that I could barely understand, but I just read them anyway. And especially on days when we had exams, I didn't have to go because she didn't believe in
Oh my
exams.
God.
It's crazy you ever went to medical school.
Yeah.
It was very unusual. And whenever we would come home, so we would read together. It was a very rich intellectual environment. And my mom was sort of the equivalent of, she was the editor of the equivalent of Scientific American.
Oh, no kidding.
Wow.
So there's also a lot of talk about science and popular science. So here's why I ended up also writing popular science and popular
Right.
psychology, because it's sort of, I really grew up with it.
And by the way, I would say in probably the best motivated way possible, which is like intrinsically. It's not
Yes.
about getting the good grade. It's not about getting the test right. It's like just
Knowledge for knowledge
betterment,
sake.
For betterment, and then also to think about something original, something that can make people think differently or like look at things differently.
Yeah. Were your parents divorced?
No, so they're not divorced.
Okay.
They weren't divorced. Actually, they're a very, very long relationship. Like, so you're asking because I didn't mention my dad yet.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, so maybe if you're asking about a motivation to understand human behavior, they're like completely opposites, my mom and my dad. My mom was a single child who came from sort of an Ashkenazi, sort of European ancestry, Jewish ancestry.
Yeah.
My dad was a Sephardic Jew. He came, like they had 10 siblings.
Wow.
He came from a very poor family.
Yeah.
And he never even finished the 5th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, he had horrible ADHD. He was bouncing whenever the teacher would come into the classroom. It was like, you out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Get off your desk and leave the classroom.
By the 5th grade, he was done with the formal education, but he was self-taught, and he was a very smart person and very, very unusual person also. But exactly the opposite of this progressive.
Even high on the disagreeability scale within.
Completely high on the disagreeability scale. Like off the charts.
Yeah.
Can I tell you what he did once we
please.
were at the hotel? And then there was I don't remember who the president was. The president of the United States was visiting.
Okay.
And he was there with all of his entourage and all like everyone surrounding him. They're all wearing these suits. And I got nervous, so I kind of like clutched onto my dad's hand. And he said, "You have nothing to be afraid of. Here, they're all humans just like you. Let me show you something."
Oh, boy.
And he took out a coin. He took out a quarter and he flipped it on in the air, and then he fell on the marble floor, and he made like this little sound. And they were all looking down to see what had fell. It was like an instinct. And you see, they're all the same. We're all the same.
Oh, I love that
that's
example.
Sweet. I thought he was going to do something wild,
Lunge
like
at the
throw
president?
it. Yeah. This is a weird question, but were you embarrassed by him because he was so different?
Okay, so basically, we were so different. And I think it took me many, many years to now really more understand what was going on in that relationship. It was not an easy relationship.
Sure.
And for many, many years, I saw it from really my point of view of like he was really difficult, stubborn, very, very, everything had to be done his way. Sort of like the opposite of what my mom was. Like one time, with him, if I didn't make it to school, that was a big deal. Thankfully, he wasn't around a lot, and that's how I was able to get away with it. But if you were around, eventually he let my mom do whatever she wanted to do. But he was very, very difficult. But later on, and actually that's part of why I even wrote this new book, Secure, because all of my understanding and everything that I understood about our relationship really shifted. And I see it now from a more secure place.
Because he was more an avoidant.
Oh gosh, he was definitely more somewhat avoidant, and I think also somewhat fearful avoidant, sort of like a mixture of it.
And do you now that we know a lot more about ADHD, like the rigidity in the game plan, how much different that is for his experience and your mom's or other people's?
Right. Oh, definitely.
Maybe a little compassion for.
Oh, I have so much more compassion to him now, and then because of this whole process that I went through in like understanding the way of like how to look at the world more securely and to really, and that has helped me so much. Because basically I think the way I was also, let's put it this, yes, he was difficult, but I was not easy either. And I was this like smart ass kid who was really highly educated, was reading all these books.
Belittled him.
Yes. And corrected his language and would like do all these things.
Triggered his insecurities.
Yes, constantly.
Isn't it so sad that we realize this all? Is your dad gone? Mine is.
He's gone,
Yeah, mine too. And I'm like, I just hate that I now have all this compassion for him. Because I was the great challenger of him as well
just
in
like
my
me,
household.
yes.
Kids, that's almost part of their role. They are there to challenge. It's normal, I think.
But it can get vicious.
I know. It can. Trust me, I know too.
It's just sad. Yeah, it's just like, for me, it's just sad. It's like, man, here's this man on earth that had this boy he clearly loved, and I could have, adored him more, and that would have filled him up more. And that was on the table for me to do, and I didn't for all my many reasons, That's a bummer.
For me, what happened with me, I think, so now it's kind of like karma gets you eventually. And then, so now I have this like little dog who's really, really cute. But he really, I mean, he likes me, but he always growls at me. He has a contentious relationship with me.
He's you.
Yes, basically. And I see how much I love this dog. And that also helped me. And again, it's those secure shifts that I've had in my understanding of myself and my life that really helped me really change how I see things. And so now I understand, wow, my dad really loved me because I see how much I love this dog, even though he's so mean to me.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, my dad really loved me because like, even though I was mean to him, I know that he did, but then I had this idea like, why, like, how did he feel about me when I was behaving towards him that way? And now I know because I can feel it inside me.
Yeah. I don't even think it's ever like anger. It's just kind of hurt. Which is even the sadder. But not me just angry about. So at some point in your 65 years in academia and residency and all this stuff, you yourself come across attachment theory.
Right.
And you're learning about it. So just give us as brief as possible explanation of attachment theory, which started maybe in the 50s or something?
Yes. I came across adult attachment theory by chance. We all know about childhood attachment, like at least when you learn to become a psychiatrist, psychologist, you know about childhood attachment. But I didn't know that adults have attachment styles and that they attach.
Right.
But during that time when we worked in attachment therapy with kids and their mothers, I loved it so much. So I read everything that there was about it, like in the list that they give you. And that's where I came across adult attachment. There's the anxious, avoidant, insecure, and fearful avoidant. And at the time, I was going through a breakup, and it explained so much.
Right.
It felt like a light bulb went in my head. And like, wow, now I understand what went down in this relationship, why it didn't work out, and what also happened in other relationships. And so basically, we really need to understand about these attachment styles.
And let's start with the children.
So with children, the way that it works is Bowlby is the founder of attachment theory. And he had this like idea that wasn't prevalent at the time because Freud always thought that we attach to our mothers and fathers, primarily the mother. You always blame the mother a lot. We attach to the mother because she gives us sustenance and food, and it's a byproduct of that. So, but then Bowlby, who actually worked with children, because Freud didn't really work with children.
No, he did coke and sat in his room and thought.
Pretty much. He actually said, no, I beg to differ. because he saw what happens when children get all of their needs met, their sort of their material needs met, but they were not giving the attachment that they needed. And so he said, no, attachment is a basic need. Just like food and water, it's not a byproduct. It's something that we need. And then there's the Harlow experiments that showed how much, even in monkeys, how much they really need.
Yeah, these poor little monkeys.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Clinging to a
Cloth.
Cloth.
Instead of the wired mother versus the cloth mother.
Yeah.
The wired mother gave food, and the cloth mother, like, it was just a piece of cloth.
Gave
Yeah.
intimacy, basically.
Yeah, but it was
just
cold and
soft.
metal, but it was just cloth, and the monkeys went to the cloth.
Oh, no.
At the expense of food.
They would eat a little bit and then sort of go to the cloth. But remember what he said, because we don't really understand it so much in adulthood. And Bowlby did say that attachment starts when we're like in birth. It actually starts before, and then goes on until we die. And I would argue even after.
Okay.
Here we were talking about our fathers.
Yeah. Wow, great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, he said that, but then came Mary Ainsworth, who was more of an experimental psychologist. I think she's a genius. She's just so brilliant. And then she discovered these attachment style, anxious, avoidant, and secure in children in something that's called the strange situation test.
Ooh, tell us.
Tell us, yeah.
So the strange situation test, it's basically you bring a toddler and their caregiver into a room full of toys, and you watch them through a one-way mirror. And you can see it on YouTube. It's really remarkable. You bring them in, they see, the child sees the toys, immediately, I want to play, starts pointing at things. They rush over, start playing, and then they ask the caregiver to leave the room.
Oh.
And immediately they drop what they're doing. They sort of run to the door, start banging on the door, crying. And then they ask the mother, the caregiver, to come back to the room. And it's in that reunion, that moment, where Mary Ainsworth identified the three attachment style, the anxious, avoidant, and secure. And it's remarkable to see. It's basically how effective is that bond in regulating the child's emotion.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's very important actually that that co-regulation is so important and also translates to adulthood. So now I'm sort of stressing it, and I'm like really making a point of it.
Yeah.
So basically, the secure child, the secure bond, the mother picks them up. And immediately, it's just like magic. They just calm down right away, and then start pointing at the toys, wanting to engage again.
Yeah.
Anxious, not so much.
What happens? What do they do?
It just takes a long time to calm them down. Sometimes they calm down and then start crying again. It's called the calm on calm paradigm. It's like oh my God. So the bond is not as effective in regulating their emotions. And the avoidant, sometimes they don't even cry. Or even they do a little bit, they stay limp in the mother's hands.
Is it fair to say they're pissed at the caregiver?
So when you look at their blood pressure, so you think, oh, sometimes they look like, I don't care, whatever. But when you look at their blood pressure, it's and their pulse, it's through the roof.
Wow.
So they're blocking, it's like, they're kind of like blocking their attachment needs. But at the same time, they're alone in trying to regulate the emotions. They don't know how to utilize the bond to regulate their emotions.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So it all has to do with how good are people, children, and then adults, and also in using others to regulate their feelings and emotions.
Do we know what the contributing factors are that end up in an anxious attachment versus the avoidant attachment? Are there patterns within that parenting style that produce that outcome?
So that's a very good question. And we do know a little bit. It becomes very, very, it's kind of like a wild field because apparently there's something that's called the adult attachment interview that has nothing to do with the attachment styles that there's the same attachment styles in adulthood, but they have nothing to do with the other attachment styles, the more romantic ones or like other relationships. It has more to do how we remember our childhood. Not so much the memories themselves, but how we narrate our childhood. Mm-hmm. There's the adult attachment interview. It gets scored by psychologists. And that can predict to some degree like the attachment style of the child. So how well, if you're very structured in your narration of your past, then the child will be more secure in the strange situation test, which is kind of strange.
If the parent is? Oh, wild.
Yes, it's pretty wild.
So if they have a pretty coherent chronological story of their own life.
That makes sense.
That's, coherent, makes sense. Odds are they're going to have a more secure.
Yeah, there's better chances. Again, it's nothing is like one-to-one ever.
Yeah.
But
of course.
It does predict to some degree the level, the child attachment style. And then if you're avoidant, then if you're like, oh my God, I had the most amazing childhood. But then actually when you talk about the memories, there's sort of like a discrepancy. Then the child that's more avoidant and the anxious jump around from one topic to another, and then you sort of, but I still don't really know what to make of it.
Yeah, right. Well, this is very hard. So now tell me how you're going through a breakup, you're learning about this.
So lo and behold, adults also have these attachment styles, anxious, avoidant, and secure, only we don't play with toys like that anymore, but it has to do with our attitudes towards closeness and intimacy on the one hand. And then on the other hand, how sensitive of a radar do we have for infractions in the relationship? And what I mean from an attachment perspective is when all of a sudden we feel that the other person is not available to us. Because attachment is really a radar of availability of other people. It's a safety system. People think it's such a deep thing about bonding. It really is a very rudimentary safety system. It's how we feel safe in the world. And so we survey the environment and we kind of have an idea in our mind, and you to probably also have an idea in your mind where your loved ones are, and they're okay. But if I were to tell you that, God forbid, and I even hate saying that, there's something bad happened somewhere, you won't be able to continue to have this conversation. You'd have to stop and immediately check to see that they're okay. So we have this surveillance system going in the back of our head all the time. People with an anxious attachment style, their surveillance system can pick up on very subtle changes of that availability, on potential threat. But the research also shows that it's not the only thing they're very good at picking up. They're picking up on picking a lot of different social cues. There's a downside to it, but it also comes with a huge upside. Let's say and I've seen it so many times with patients and just in people in the world, if you're better at day trading, you can sort of really see changes in different subtle changes that other people won't be able to detect. They're just very, very good at detecting. And then also one then questions, if you think about, and that's what I really try to do in this book, is turn around that whole causality thing, because oftentimes people blame their parents for their adult attachment style, and it's completely wrong. But think about how hard it is to raise a child that has that level of ability to really superpowers to pick up cues from the environment.
It can be a little stressful.
Yes, for all parties involved. I gave an example in the chapter, because I really was trying to look for an example that people don't understand. No, it's not only about danger. It's not only about sort of bad things. True, they can also identify danger. But in the book, I give an example about a woman who has an adopted daughter, and she takes her to the first day of school. And then she starts playing with another girl there that she also finds out is adopted. And then all of a sudden she stops and I can't believe I'm seeing this. These girls are sisters. And she saw, in their facial expression, they weren't exactly the same, but you could sort of detect the similarities in their sort of facial structure, in the way that they smiled, the way that they moved. And she started talking to other people and said, no way, no one believed her.
The odds are staggering.
Right, exactly. But she kept at it. And lo and behold, they actually are sisters.
Wow.
And what did she do with that information?
So now apparently these two sisters are bonded. They're she found her daughter, her sister, and I think it's years later, and they're as close as ever. So it's a good story.
Wow.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert. if you dare.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Apple TV, the new U.S. home of Formula One. You can now watch complete all-access live coverage of every Grand Prix, including practice, qualifying, and sprints, all in one place. I will be consuming all of those things, Monica.
I know you will.
I kill for Friday to start watching practice one, following, and then on a sprint weekend, oh my gosh, 2 races. And this season brings a ton of new energy to the sport. New teams like Cadillac and Audi just joining the grid. New drivers stepping into major seats. Lando Norris defending his first World Drivers' Championship. And all eyes on Lewis Hamilton in his second season with Ferrari and a brand new circuit in Madrid. Plus, a new U.S. home for Formula One. You can watch every race live only on Apple TV. Watch on Apple devices, Android devices, smart TVs, streaming devices, gaming consoles, or on the web at tv.apple.com. All part of one Apple TV subscription alongside hundreds of exclusive shows and movies. Watch the Formula One Chinese Grand Prix live on Sunday, March 15th at 3 a.m. Eastern, or watch race replays on demand anytime only on Apple TV, the new U.S. home of F1. We are supported by Allstate. Checking Allstate first could save you hundreds on car insurance. That's smart. Not checking which platform you watch that new show on, so frustrating. 15 minutes later, you've logged into 7 apps, reset 2 passwords, and still haven't found it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Potential savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate North American Insurance Co. and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. We are supported by Intuit TurboTax. April 15th is coming up fast. And if you're like most people, you're probably dreading the whole tax thing. You know the old way, sitting in some waiting room for hours or sending over your tax docs and waiting for any kind of update. You want something modern and tech forward, but you also want that human connection. And this year brings a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can walk into a tech-enabled TurboTax location near you and meet face-to-face with a real tax expert. Drop off your documents in the store and see them uploaded to your TurboTax app instantly. Just like that, you're done. Your new TurboTax expert stays back and works tirelessly to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. Honestly, it feels like someone finally figured out what we've all been wanting. It's not some sterile tax office from 1987, and it's not just an app where you're on your own. It's both. The human expertise with smart modern tech. You drop off your stuff, go about your day, and get real-time updates as your expert works through everything. That's the upgrade. Head to TurboTax.com to find a store location near you and get matched with a TurboTax expert with real-time updates and iOS app. You're right, though. We tend to pathologize every single thing that we know about, and it's like all these things are trade-offs, right?
Exactly.
They all come with some benefit, or you wouldn't have gotten to this point. In a sense.
I'm glad that you said that because, that's I would say that my biggest mission in this book for people to realize that attachment. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people, and when you look on social media, that people equate anxious and avoidant with pathology. But attachment, and that's what that's why I'm so drawn to this science, because attachment, it doesn't come from the medical model of pathology and healing and curing pathology. Mm-hmm. It actually comes from social psychology and the neurodevelopmental model. So the question is not about what's wrong and how we can cure it or heal it. It's more about, is it effective or is it not effective? Is the bond effective in regulating the emotions?
Right.
Or is it not? Is it working for you or is it not working for you?
Is it servicing your goals or not servicing?
And from an attachment perspective, it's specifically, are you able to use this? It's something that's called a secure base. Is it giving you a secure base? Mm-hmm. Because the point of view of relationships, from an attachment perspective, remember, it's like a safety mechanism.
Yeah.
It's for you actually to fade into the background. So that, in the strange situation when the child wants to play with all these toys, and every once in a while looks back to see if the mother is there. So that's the point of a relationship. So we can kind of check to see if they're there, but not to think about you that much.
Yeah.
So you to be in the background. So we don't play with toys, but we have hobbies, we have careers, we parent, we have all these different things. Yeah. So attachment is really linked to our exploratory drive. When we feel safe, we can explore.
Yeah.
So that's basically, it's more related to that.
Okay, so but to bring everyone up to speed, so you obviously you wrote with Helen Attached, which was applying this attachment theory to adults and specifically romantic pairings.
Right, because that's what it was initially about.
Yeah. And so this book is enormously successful, and it also has a very peculiar trajectory as a book, no? In that it's kind of hockey-shaped in its distribution. Didn't it just continue to swell over time, and there were some interesting catalysts like COVID and TikTok? And
Initially, when we wrote the book, we had this running joke between us that it's only going to sell one copy to the Library of Congress. Because
they have to mandate it to get it.
I mean, we wrote it. Basically, I went through this breakup, and she's my childhood friend. And so instead of just, how you talk about breakups incessantly, so I said, you know what, instead of sort of wasting all that energy about talking about the breakup, let's make something good about it. And then I sort of came across, it's just so cool.
Can I ask what your style was? Was it anxious?
With this person, yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much anxious. I didn't understand what was going on. And then that goes to this idea, like all these myths that we have, if you don't know about attachment theory, like we have this idea that everybody loves the same. But science doesn't show that everybody loves the same. We love very differently if we're anxious, avoidant, insecure. We haven't even gotten to it yet, which we'll get to in a moment. But we love very, very differently. So for me, I was more like the anxious, secure part. And then it was certainly driven more towards anxious when the other person stopped responding. And they said, when I really like someone, I actually think about getting on a plane and moving away to the West Coast. And for me, it didn't make any sense because why would you want to do that? Like, don't you want to, if you really like someone, don't you want to see a future together?
Yeah.
Don't you want to think about being together?
Yeah.
But no, avoidance, they don't like too much closeness. And oftentimes, when they feel too much closeness, they want to bulk, they want to run away. But I didn't know that's 25% of the population. That it's scary for them, that it means that they feel a loss of independence, that it's all that is like, oh my God, you're sort of bringing all the scariest things for them.
Well, okay, and I'll add a layer, because I think when I was younger, I probably... And again, you'll be the first to acknowledge it, but these are all spectrum.
Right, exactly.
Spectrum categories.
That's what this new book is really emphasizing.
Yeah, so it's a spectrum category. So it's and also we are very fluid and context dependent. So I'm
relationship dependent.
Yeah, I'm one way here, I'm one way there. But if I had to say what I lean more towards, is actually zero fear of intimacy. I did not mean being close. That felt wonderful. But I would be immediately overwhelmed with the responsibility of that. And then this fear, almost in an OCD way, of this fear of if I have to break up with this person, this is going to be so painful. And I'm now so afraid of this responsibility of potentially hurting this person that now I'm starting to feel a little trapped by it.
So it's a version of avoidance.
Yeah.
I mean, so you see, it's like it's not like what you
There's all these hues of it.
It is, exactly. So you weren't afraid by the physical closeness,
or even the
emotional closeness. Yeah, you weren't afraid by that.
None of it scared me.
But somehow it felt like, whoa, this is a big responsibility. Definitely a tinge of avoidance there. And also, I listened to some of your podcasts, and I discussed, I saw also there were moments of change. And I really put a lot of emphasis in this book of those small moments of change.
Yes.
Yes, I think, Monica, you brought it up in one of the podcasts about sort of the glass of water story that you used to have.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, with Kristen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it's why should I get her? No, she should get it herself.
We're both sitting here.
Yes, exactly. No, why should I do that? And then I was like, potentially, what does it mean?
Right.
What pattern am I setting up? So for the rest of my life, I'll be waiting on this person?
Right, exactly.
Or I'm getting taken advantage of. That type of thing.
And then the leap of faith of no,
Exactly.
actually, hold on. Do I think this person is someone who will exploit and take advantage of me because I am nice this one time? Will they... And then that was the breakthrough. It was no, I don't think this person is that way. I don't need to have this fear.
And that moment, that shift...
Yeah.
And that's exactly how our brain changes towards greater security. I love that example. And that's what I thought I would bring it up because it's such an important, it seems like, no, but it's a major shift for our brain. Yeah. So you're able to use what we call metacognition, which is thinking about our thoughts and say, you know what, no, here. And so maybe, and hopefully you got up and got the glass of water.
I did, yeah. And I haven't minded. But then it starts all over again when you have kids because you're also
Right.
like, well,
I also heard that.
yeah, it's like, am I setting them up for a pattern that I think is untenable for their life?
I heard that. I think maybe you mentioned something about when they call from the kitchen.
Yeah.
Or like they fall or something happened in the kitchen. It's like, oh, I don't want to get up. And then eventually, no, but maybe I should. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But it's like you've evolved.
Yeah. As I always say, it's like my life now is stepping over the many bad thoughts I have en route to who I want to be. But they're going to come up every time. It's like, oh, that's that thing. That's that.
But it's the thing, what I'm trying to sort of really show in this book is that it's not necessarily a bad thought. It's more like this belief that every person should take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad belief. It's just a belief.
Yeah.
We then assign it blame or bad or sort of even give it a potential causal mechanism.
Yeah.
But if we just examine it phenomenologically for what it is, it's a belief.
Yeah.
And then you say, but is it working for me or is it not working for me?
Right. But some people could be in that exact same situation and probably have an anxious attachment.
Oh, yeah,
You
of
know, so
course.
it's like, it's not like one equals this. A different person in that exact same environment.
Well, your
Oh, yes,
genetics
of
are
course.
hugely
You know?
in the mix
Yes,
too,
of course,
right?
because there's so many different parameters that go into this mix. So you're right, exactly. Some people will actually say, well, because I didn't have a mother that doted on me, now I have all these issues, and now when I can detect threat when someone tries to pull away because I can identify it. I mean,
Right.
there's no-
Yeah, it looks so
Yes.
familiar. I know what this looks like.
I think I have anxious.
I
Do
wasn't
you?
going to self-diagnose you, but yeah. I mean, look, you're like the way you would pray for your family members. And
Yeah,
you
and
were
a lot of
super,
fear. A lot
Yeah.
of fear.
Yeah, and like superstition. If I miss this prayer, they're going to die.
But that's not really attachment, or is it? I guess.
Well, I think it's more about like how effective is the bond between you two. Like if you reach out to them, how quickly can you calm down? I mean, it has to do with it's more like anxious attachment is not necessarily just being like having separation attachment. It's more about being afraid that the bond, that you're not going to be loved as much as you want to be loved, that other people will leave you, that other people will fail you.
Yeah,
I do have that.
You
but
do,
I don't
but I
know
bet
why.
it's more peer derived than parental.
I definitely, it's weird because I don't have that at all with my parent.
Right.
But her otherness in her peer group,
Right.
I think, could also.
So that's the beauty, and that's why I really wanted to. I mean, look, 15 years has passed with my last book, and a lot of new information was discovered about attachment, and I really found that there's a potential here to help people flourish.
Yeah.
And actually, after I finished writing the book, then all these people started coming to me asking, okay, help me become more secure.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't have an immediate answer for that because, again, it doesn't exist. We never really learned about it in the clinical world. We translated, we basically, Rachel and I took it from papers and tried to breathe clinical life into it.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't have an immediate answer to how you become more secure. And then the answer came over time. From the lab, actually, not from my work, from understanding the brain.
Not from cocaine use in your
Yes, exactly.
study.
You told me. But really from understanding the brain.
Yeah. So the first book helped you understand your attachment style.
Yeah, but then how do you...
And then people want to know, well, how do I change it?
Right.
Yeah, right. And now this book, Secure, is going to help us change into a secure attachment.
Right,
style.
and really it offers, and in it, I guess, as a neuroscientist, it's the kind of therapy I wish I could go into with people know more about the brain, because most therapies haven't been they haven't been updated.
Yeah.
Some of it is not the blame of the therapies, because the NIH doesn't really sponsor them and studies about new therapies. Yeah. But there's so much more that we know about the brain. And so it's kind of like the kind of therapy that me as a neuroscientist would want to have, but it didn't exist. And so over time, I didn't have this grandiose idea, I'm going to create it, but it just over time just happened on its own, and I created these tools. And the whole idea is, if you know, that's what we just said, that you know that a part of your life is much more secure than others, that certain relationships are much more secure, then why not then really increase the volume on that part of your life and just shift the attention and the focus to sort of create a more secure life. And that really changes the brain on such a fundamental level.
Yeah, you what you do is you merge together three different fields. You've all Harari this. You're like you're doing the neuroscience, you're doing the clinical psychology, you're doing
the attachment.
Yeah, and you're creating what you would call now
like this secure priming therapy.
Yes.
But it's not only therapy and coaching, but it's also the way I started creating it. Actually, I started creating a course for high school because I think anybody could learn. I had a student and she wanted to do some sort of an exhibit, a science exhibit on the social brain. And she asked me what would be the most important lessons. And I came up with 5, and then actually like 3 of them made it into the book. And it was the things that I thought would be the most beneficial for people to know. And then I thought, I can actually make a course out of this where people can actually learn. If you really believe that you should only count on yourself, that's not a bad thought necessarily, or it's not a pathology, but it's really more to explain about how the brain responds to exclusion. Our brain hates exclusion, and I call it the Cyberball Effect. And then I developed an antidote to it. Like, how do we sort of then create the opposite? Because our brain loves hyper-inclusion or hyper-connectedness. It just loves it. And then how do we then orchestrate that in our everyday life? So these are the 3 lessons that I started the book with.
Yeah, so you talk about the science of the brain in part 1. So what do we need to understand about how the brain works?
So our brain loathes exclusion. That was like the most important thing that I would start with. It's just like, and that's, I call it the Cyberball Effect. The biggest thing is safety, because we're not descendants of eagles or elephants or lions. We're not. We're these like primates who lived for a long time in the middle of the food chain. And it was only when I was on a safari in Africa.
You realize how fucking vulnerable we are.
Because we went, they took us, most of the time we were in those like vehicles, and you feel like it's okay, even though one time an elephant started charging at us, it was pretty scary. But we backed up. But at one time, they took us on, we walked outside and in the wild. But they had a guy with a rifle behind us and a guy with a rifle in front of us, and we had to keep a single file, and at no point could we have actually opened the gap. And if we did, they would tell us immediately, close the gap. And then I realized, wow, when we were there, there's no people with rifles in the front. And then it's not about just like, I like being hyper-included. It's so nice. I love it. It's so comfy and warm and cozy. It's more about if you're excluded, then you can fall prey at any second.
You're dead.
Yeah, you're dead.
Yeah. It's life or death.
And the fact that we're all close to each other here, for example, now. So if a predator came, I have like a 66% of survival, better than if I were by myself, because they're going to go after you.
Right.
Rob's fucked. He's going to get picked off back there behind that wall.
Well, not if they come in this way, then he'll run out that door and he'll be safe.
And that doesn't take into account the fact that we can warn each other, we can try to fight them off together.
We have a 360-degree view right now between our combined
so we can alert each other. We can use all of our senses to help each other, all of which happens. And you see it in so many different social animals. Even you see it in social birds. Like they peck all the time. And every once in a while they swoop up to look for prey. They look for food and then to look to see if someone is like, are they going to be prey? But then if they have more birds around, they will swoop up, they will look up a lot less. So their brain computes it into the mix. And our brains also compute it into the mix. You're not in New York, but like walking into an empty subway car in the middle of the night, I don't know if I will do that. I would go to the subway car where there's more people. Or like an empty alley. We instinctively feel it. We feel it's a safety thing.
Yeah, you intuitively do that math. The birds know like, there's 3 of us. I should be looking up a third of the time, even though they don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's 100, so it's like, I only got to look up 1% of the time.
Because it was hugely advantageous to do that. And then those who didn't get that social monitoring sort of upgrade, like what they couldn't really compete. There was such a huge advantage.
They got picked off.
To have, it was because they were constantly looking up and they were all eating while they were looking up.
And then we get into so much fun stuff. It's like the birth of lying comes from this. It's like there are calls for chimpanzees to say leopard and this and that. And they would make a fake call so they could go fuck the high status female while the alpha was looking over.
It becomes very intricate. In humans and also in other social, and also even in some birds, we have an upgrade to that system because we compare ourselves to others we also always compare, and there's a whole chapter involved to why we compare and why we can't help it.
Yeah.
But part of our ability to compare, it's really about assessing the other, what they're able to, are they stronger than me, or they're not stronger than me, but we have this upgrade that we can determine, are they going to work well with me or not?
Right.
And that ability to compare, to evaluate is very, very, it's key for us as humans.
This is theory of mind stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can think about how you're thinking.
Yeah.
I can assess your thoughts.
Yeah. And are you going to be there for me? Are you going to sort of, like what you described that happened? Yeah, I can get her a cup of water because she probably has my back and she'll also get me a cup of water later.
It'll be reciprocal.
So we have that ability to assess.
Yeah.
And that's a key part in becoming more secure because, again, sometimes and I even have a questionnaire. There's like, assess how good is your collaboration. And then also rate how close you are to different people. And then see, are those really good collaborations also the people that are closest to you? Because if not, maybe you want to think about changing your priorities, your relationship priorities in the process of becoming more secure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cyberball Effect.
Right. So the Cyberball Effect, basically, it's an experiment. It's based on the Cyberball experiment. And basically what happens, you're playing a game of catch with two other people on a video game, a very rudimentary video game, two-dimensional. And all of a sudden, they stop throwing the ball in your direction, and the brain hates it, and psychologically, we hate it. You see areas of like pain, distress, self-scrutiny, like in the brain, they all sort of like light up.
The amygdala's on fire? Is that what's happening?
Certain parts of the amygdala, other areas of self-scrutiny.
Okay.
It's all like threat and what's happening and why is it happening.
Yeah.
And also potentially also pain, experiencing it as like pain, not too different from physical pain.
Yeah.
It's very, very distressing.
Yeah.
And psychologically, they looked and they found that certain domains are being affected. That I personally was very surprised by it. Like we feel that life is less meaningful, less in control of our life, and less self-esteem.
Oh, yeah.
And less self-esteem.
Yes. So things that I always thought, like my self-esteem is not related to or how much control I have over my life or that life is meaningful. Why does it matter to who is interacting with me? It's things that come from within. They don't come from within.
Yeah.
And they found the opposite of the Cyberball Effect when you actually put the person in the middle. And now I'm in the middle, and I'm throwing the ball to you, you'll throw it back to me, I'm throwing it to you, you're throwing it to me, I'm hyper-included now.
Yeah.
So basically, you see the opposite. You feel that life is more meaningful, you feel that more self-esteem, and you feel greater control in your life.
Yeah.
So these are amazing things that we can create by hyper-inclusion, but the question is, how do you create that?
Right.
Yeah, how do you create
that? Teach us.
So that's when I came up with these 5 pillars.
CARP?
The CARP, the 5 pillars of secure life, which consists of consistency, availability, responsiveness. And then you also have to make sure it's not enough that it's like, I'm consistent, available, and responsive. You have to make sure that the other person experiences you as reliable and predictable. And that creates CARP. So it's like a 2-factor authentication.
Yeah.
It's something that happens in a relationship. So if you learn to be CARP and you can also teach others to be CARP with you, then you can really create that sort of like hyper-included, and it's not that hard. It's actually pretty easy. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. Attachment is not a very sophisticated system. It's a monitoring system.
Yeah.
Like if you give it what it needs, remember I told you, you are supposed to disappear into the background. You just have to learn how to strategically give that. So you don't wait until a child is super hungry to feed them or super tired to put them to sleep. You kind of like try to anticipate what they need and sort of give it to them, and then you can sort of coast.
Yeah. It is funny because you can think it, like I'm sure all the listeners can like think about people in their lives who they don't have to think about the fact that they're there, like that they're not worried about that relationship. It's just there. It's constant. Like you and Aaron, there's people like that. And then you have people that you're like, do I need to check in on them? Or maybe that's just me because I'm anxious. But like people who are more on the fence of, are they there? Are you there still? Are you still in my,
Yeah, they're not CARP. So what happens is they push your button. It's just like not the buttons. They activate the radar. But I like how you said
radar.
we always have these people that we know that they're there. But what I find is that oftentimes people tend to ignore those people because there's no drama.
Yes.
And so they are like, we tend to shift more to where, like, because there's the alarm goes off. So let's see where it goes off. And we don't really.
You're like inversely rewarded for being carp sometimes in some relationships.
And then what happened in the course of writing this book and the course of this work, I really learned to fall in love with the securers of this world because they're just so good at relationships.
Yeah.
And so what I really try to teach my patients and my students and when I supervise is to really shift the focus and find those people, because we really ignore them, like really shift, instead of like, why is this person not texting me? Oh, but this person texts me all the time.
Yes.
Why shouldn't I text them?
Right. More energy there.
Yes, exactly. And so you create that shift. And then what happens is we come to the final tool, which is when you start to pay attention, and it's not in the big things, it's in what I come to call the seemingly insignificant minor interactions, which is also short for SIMIs, of everyday life. It's in those little moments, like that glass of water moment, that a lot of major change can happen because it re-challenges your brain. If you have this belief, yes, I really have to work hard for people to interact with me. People will I need to get their attention. Otherwise, they wouldn't want to be with me. They wouldn't want to necessarily reach out to me. That's more of the anxious thing. Instead, you get all these experiences, all these semis that are counteracting that world belief. Because really, attachment styles are basically a kind of a world belief that we have, which is set in some ways, and then our brain sifts information based on that word belief. So what I'm asking you to do is don't sift information based on your world belief. Look here to your right or to your left, and there's additional information that can change your brain with those little semis.
So one of my issues with all this stuff, again, is trade-offs. There's positives, there's negatives, but in the mass pop psychology genre of social media, what I seem to see the most of is identifying somebody. Everything's about what another person's problem. Know if you're with a narcissist. Know if you're with this.
And then also from childhood then also.
Yeah, so either childhood's to blame or these other people are to blame.
Or they have terrible pathology. Yeah.
I don't find a ton of it about how about you make yourself the thing that you think you deserve, and then just kind of see what happens downriver from that. For this is priority number one to make sure you're carp.
So I'm so glad you asked that. One of the reasons it was so important for me to write this book, because it's just I don't see things that way anymore. Instead of going back to this idea as a child, to no, but you can see things differently. So here, maybe try to look at it from a different angle. These are little tricks to fool your biology that wants to go in a certain way and make it see things a little bit differently so the brain can see, things can look different. So I'm not even saying you have to take accountability. I'm not even going there. I'm just saying, look, but the thing is, anxious and avoidant have to use those tools very differently. And that's where it gets a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. Well, this is where we get into one of my favorite AA sayings, which is it's easier to act your way into thinking different than think your way into acting different. So maybe explain a little bit what's happening biochemically with neurons, and then why does this work? What actually with neuroplasticity and neural pathways? What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. Because we have this we have this surveillance system that was in some way maybe very sensitive. And maybe the opposite, I'm constantly suppressing it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of it starts ruling our life.
Yeah.
And then basically what happens, if we get triggered, then two different things happen for anxious and avoidant.
Okay.
For secure, the thing is they don't really get triggered that often. They just don't see a lot of threat. So even maybe I think they would be the last people to know if someone cheated on them. Because it's they're not going to see the signs.
Looking for it.
They're not going to see the signs.
Interesting.
It's just not something that they'll see.
Yeah.
Or even at work. Or there's different things. I can give you so many different scenarios. The other day, when was it? Someone emailed me and they said, hey, when do you have a time to talk? And then my sister said, "Oh my God, she probably got fired." And I said, like, why would you say that? She just wanted to say when we can talk.
Yeah.
Sure enough, she got fired.
See? Yeah.
And then more research recently have shown that it also affects how our health, like how we interact with our healthcare providers, and even if we have like a chronic illness like fibromyalgia, how much pain we're going to be in. It really, and then it affects how we shop. Secure people don't care so much about, they don't care so much about logos. Why are you laughing?
I just love shopping so much. And fashion.
But you can love fashion, but it's not about, but maybe less about status. And more about, or maybe it also about
status is in the mix. I have to be honest.
you.
I don't want it to be,
I'm
but
proud
it
of
is
you.
in the mix.
Right.
You're such a good girl.
So, like, but it's fine. You can. It's. I think I said it from the beginning. It's about 25% of the population are avoidant, about 20% are anxious, and about 50-something% are secure, and a very small percentage are fearful avoidant.
Yeah.
So these are just like variations on the norm. And there's all these, like, there's different studies that show the amazing advantage that to have that variability within the population. They had one study where they had like a little smoke come out of a computer in a group of people, and the anxious ones were the first to notice it, and the avoidants were the first out the door.
Yes.
And everyone, other people followed. But you can see there can be an advantage.
Yeah.
Just like, you know what? Fuck you all, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
But I want to go back to what you said about like this whole thing on social media. We're pointing at others, and like I just think that it's like the wrong conversation or the wrong way of looking at it, because there's like this whole potential, and that's the beauty of this science, that we all have these secure people in our lives and secure experiences from our own childhood that we can tap into and become more secure, and the opportunity and the advantages for being more secure in that way, like we can really flourish. And that's one of the reasons I want my patients to flourish. I don't want them to just like heal. I mean, I do want them to heal from trauma, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I want to take it a step further. And I think that this science, so really understanding and combining the neuroscience with the attachment, really can give people the opportunity to flourish.
I just stumbled upon this chatting with my brother in New York. We took a trip for 3 days before Christmas. And we were discussing, there's a lot of good social science behind, although I don't believe in The Secret, the book, I do believe in an aspect of it, right? Which is like your focus and attention can create a bit of confirmation bias. So if you're looking towards the future and you're thinking of only the ways you're going to fail, those are the ones you're going to focus on, and you're going to see proof of that more often than you'll see proof of the a different theory that you're trying to service. So I was talking to my brother. I was just telling him honestly, I'm like, I'm writing this memoir and I feel a bit guilty because it's really it's the highlights reel of the bad stuff. Because that's drama, that's everything. That's a good book. And I said, but when I'm being honest, that probably, and all your and I's combined stuff, that might have maybe been 0.2% of our overall waking experience.
That's amazing, actually.
And why wouldn't the same premise apply to looking backwards as it does forward? Like you and I could construct any story we want. We have enough info back there to come up with any story, and perhaps by us focusing on these things that were, no doubt, gnarly, we're kind of excluding all the other stuff that would confirm, no, we actually had a very blessed, lucky childhood.
And that's basically the way that I just described it here is a big part of the essence of the secure priming therapy is really recasting your past from a more secure place.
Yeah.
And really looking at the other influences and the other people that were in your life, even the people where things were difficult. That's how we started the conversation. Yeah. I was able to see my part in it also, and really also see other times when actually my father really loved me and gave me sort of like attention and. Here, that moment when we were in the hotel lobby, when he threw the coin. Yeah. And actually, that shift is huge for our brain, and it can really help us. It really changes also who we are in the here and now, sort of having a more, remember that narrative and how we create the narrative? It like actually, it's richer and it's more true.
It's more true,
Yeah.
It's, and weirdly, and I'm dealing with it now, it's really crazy that I can intellectually understand that, and yet I do have this fear of letting that go.
I know.
Because I think it's so interwoven in my, quote, identity, that to let go of it would be threatening to my identity.
And we live in a world that's really ruled by Freudian psychology. That everything is because of these things happen to us in childhood. But actually, when the science shows that the attachment styles that we have as children predicts less than 10% of the attachment styles that we have in adults.
Whoa,
interesting.
that's a huge...
And a lot of what really makes changes our attachment style happen later.
Yeah.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It's counterintuitive, and it's encouraging.
Yeah.
Completely encouraging, because there's so much, and you can change your attachment style, and you can change it, and you can evolve. And that's why actually I thought that it was fair to write this book, because you can change it. The science shows that you can change it.
Yeah, I want to know a little bit about neural pathways. What happens when you dwell on those 5, for me, I'll just say, I had 2 terrible stepdads. I had 4 great teachers. Why aren't I looking at the 4 great teachers?
I was actually going to agree with that example, because I listened, I did my homework, and then the story that you
Such
tell
a good
about.
student.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I feel like he used AI, though, to scan all of them.
Oh, no, I listened.
Remember, he went back to school 80 million times.
He listened to 2,000 hours.
No, actually, it was fascinating, I have to say. And I love that story of the math teacher who recognized that you...
I could do geometry.
It was geometry?
Yeah. We had the little blocks, and we were learning.
And then he asked you to sort of teach the other students.
Yes. Changed my life.
Yeah.
And it's like a semi, basically, like something that happened in a moment. Someone did something really good by my brain.
Yeah.
He changed my brain to a different trajectory, and made me really see myself differently and think about things differently.
Is the muscle analogy not good, or is it good? So when we use certain thoughts that embolden certain pathways, or...
Oh, definitely. It describes it really, really well, because what happens, our memories, the way that we think the memories are now, our current belief is that our memories lie in our synapses, in the structure of the synapses. Mm-hmm. And usually LTP, long-term potentiation, is when we do in electrophysiology, that we strengthen memories, the synapses get tighter, and there's actin growing in the synapses to kind of build the structure. So that's why the analogy of the muscles, the actual molecules are some of them are the same molecules. And then when memories weaken, which is a very important part, because we also have to forget, and forgetting is an active process in the brain, an active molecular process. Synapses actually get weakened. They get further apart. They're not as strong. Bit. That's why I brought up the whole semies thing, because people, when they go to therapy, think, I have to talk about my childhood, really difficult events that happened to me. Yeah. But really, the avenue for change in the brain are through those semies, because every interaction gives you a moment, a chance to rewrite something, to strengthen those synapses or weaken those synapses. And that's basically the synaptic plasticity idea.
It's such an empowering way to look at it all, because you have absolutely no sway over what happened to you 30 years ago. That's done.
But also, if you think about it, we're social species. We're not particularly strong animals.
Right.
We're actually pretty weak. We live in every niche on this planet just because our ability to sort of collaborate and cooperate so well. So it doesn't really make sense that we'll stay stuck in something that happened to us really early on. What advantage is there in that at all? It's just it doesn't make sense to me. We need to be socially versatile. And we are extremely socially versatile, much more than we can even give ourselves credit for, because of that Freudian biology.
Yes, you're so right. I when it hits me the most is I'll be watching some documentary on chimpanzees, and they're probably our closest thing to look at.
Oh yeah, they are.
And these little babies, they get fucked up. These alpha males will come through and they'll be thrashing the jungle, and they'll throw 130 feet and everything. And I just am watching that, and I'm like, it's curious to me that they're so resilient. They go through trauma, what we would call capital T trauma, almost daily.
Oh yeah, their lives are vicious.
Yeah, they're vicious, and yet they still persevere, right? And I'll look at that and I'll go, as much as I do like honoring what has happened to us, we also have forgotten how fucking resilient we are. You can't live with this many members of a group and not be traumatized many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that brings me to that chapter 10 about causality.
Yes, I've circled that one. I wanted to talk about that. Anne, you want to tell the story of Anne?
The story of Anne, it's basically a woman who as a child had terrible separation anxiety. But unfortunately for her dad had to travel a lot for business. And so whenever he would travel, she would sort of cry and like really sort of hold on to his like leg and like really don't go. And then she would have a hard time falling asleep. And they would try to reassure her, but he had to go for work. But they didn't know she had separation anxiety. And there's actually good treatment for separation anxiety in children.
You said it's like 4 to 6% maybe have that.
Yeah,
she
it's
may
very
have
prevalent.
had that.
Yeah, it's very prevalent. And so basically, eventually she learned it's not going to work, and I'm just going to bottle it up and sort of like, and so they thought it was over, that she was fine. And in many cases, it does go away. So it wasn't unreasonable to think that, but she really kept that fear inside for many, many years, and she couldn't fall asleep. She just like kept a brave face. And then when she was an adult, she had a really hard time in relationships. Like she would be in a relationship, but she would always want to leave. And she every day was like, should I stay or should I leave? Should I stay? And she would keep even like boxes unpacked because no, I shouldn't unpack them because I'm going to leave. And that happened in several relationships.
She was afraid they were going to leave? Like she was trying to get ahead of it?
Because it just didn't feel any safe. And like, she's just like, no, this doesn't feel right to me. I don't know what's going to happen here. This doesn't feel right to me. It's just like, I don't know if I belong here. Is this the right thing for me or is it not the right thing for me? And so as someone who like learned psychology and learned to do therapy, then you say, well, because as a child, you really didn't, you grew up, even though your parents were loving and really and cared about you, still there was that basic experience of that relationships are dangerous. Right. Relationships are a source of pain and anguish. Yeah. So I'm going to be very careful how I'm going to approach this relationship. And the truth is, I would totally have I would have given this explanation and I would have stood by that explanation until I became a scientist. Right. And once I became a scientist, I said, wait a second, when you're a scientist, finding causality, that's the holy grail of scientific discovery. That's so hard to do.
Yes.
Did you want to explain the difference between correlation and causality? I think people think they're experiencing causality and they're experiencing.
Yeah, we think in causality, but oftentimes people find that things actually like correlate or confound. The best example, because I love that example, like when you talked about how like you came from a family of little means, so you had to sort of fend for yourself, and you had to sort of make sure that you're taking what you need. Yeah. And so the best example is that marshmallow test that has been disproven.
Oh,
yes, it's been disproven.
Milk it. Who did Marshmallow?
Oh no, I don't remember.
They tried to replicate it, and it was completely disproved.
Come on, this is an exclusive. What? Tell me.
Tell everyone.
Yeah.
So the marshmallow test, they took children, and they put a marshmallow in front of them, and they told them, if you wait for a certain time, then when we get back, you'll get 2. And so they waited a certain time, and some kids were able to wait, and they got 2, and some weren't able to wait. You can see them like sitting on their hands, singing, trying to sort of distract themselves. And then they found that those kids who didn't have that impulse control, that's at least, then they didn't wait. They didn't fare as well later in life as the kids who had better impulse control. And there was a whole theory about impulse control and how good it is and how important it is, and all of that. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, they did a larger study with a larger cohort, and they didn't find any of that effect.
Interesting.
And not only that, they found that the original studies were confounded by socioeconomic status.
Oh.
So, of course, it would make sense if you come from a lower socioeconomic status to jump at that marshmallow and eat it, because it wouldn't stay. It wouldn't
there ain't no later. 2 coming back.
Yes,
Bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why.
And everybody knows that socioeconomic status is,
The biggest predictor.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So oh my God, they've been lying to us this whole
My,
time.
there have been thousands of books written on the shoulders of the marshmallow.
But that's the beauty of science, that you can sort of like really, okay, let's do.
Yeah.
And when I work with single molecules, I can give you astounding examples of how I worked with mice and aplysia, much simpler animals, even those, when we think we found causality, at some point they thought PKM zeta, it's like a molecule. That's the reason why we have long-term memory. It's responsible for long-term memory. There's a big splash in Science magazine, in a paper, and everybody believed that. And they gave this medication that inhibited PKM zeta. They could erase memories, prevent them from happening. Amazing. And it's all done in mice. Very simple sort of fear memory stuff. Later, several years later, another study came out in Nature, sort of science rival. It's like, no, sorry, we actually were able to knock out PKM zeta from mice. They remember perfectly well.
Yeah.
And not only that, we gave them the medication that you thought, and they don't have PKM zeta, which they thought was specific, and it did disrupt their memory. And that medication is not specific. It actually completely, I'll just say it in a way that will make it more simple. It completely fucks up the brain. So
Yeah. Oh my
that's why they
God.
didn't have it. Was not
Systemic
specific.
collapse of brain activity,
Exactly.
of which memory is a part.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like we hit him in the head with a club, and the
Yeah.
memory it connects us to
Weirdly,
memory.
Exactly. Something of that, yes, basically. So even a single molecule in simple animals is so hard to establish causality. How can I really stand behind such causal inferences? And especially like in mice even, like if you expose them to a bully, that you really put a lot of tiny mice in a CD1 mouse, they're big and aggressive, and you put them for, I don't know how long they put them there, and they beat them up. And then sometimes some of them, I think maybe 50% will really suffer and develop like symptoms of depression, anxiety. Another 50% will completely, like nothing happened.
Right.
So we don't know. We just don't really know.
That's a simpler animal in a much
Exactly.
more controlled environment.
You still don't know.
My therapist she actively does not like talking about the past.
Because a lot of the evidence-based therapies are really focused on the here and now.
Yeah.
But they really, evidence-based therapies for like depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
And I really try to create something that will help people become more secure while focusing on the here and now.
Yeah.
While creating these small interactions that gives your brain another chance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about secure mode and what life actually looks like daily. Oh, we didn't finish Anne. What did we figure out?
So basically with Anne, good. I'm glad. So with
Yeah.
Anne, when I became a scientist, yeah, I mean, I can give that story, and it's good, but it's not fact. I mean, you can think about it as a narrative that can potentially help people, and I can say, maybe there are echoes from the past, which is fine, but the truth is we can work in the here and now to really instill meaningful changes that will really help you. And that's what we did. Luckily, she had a very secure partner. And that's always good because that's sort of like the
helpful.
vehicle for change. Because they're like, I told you, I fell in love with the secures of this world because they're like having a built-in relationship coach in the relationship.
Yeah.
It can be in friendships, in romantic relationships. It can be at work. It can be in so many different areas of our life. So those relationships are really, really important. And then basically, he knew that he didn't take it personally. And it's easier for secures not to take things personally because they don't sense danger. So it's like, okay, it's easier. And so, I understand this is something that comes up. And so she was able to learn to open up to him and talk to him about her fears. And then slowly to unpack the boxes. Yeah. And so all the angst that stood out, that sort of prevented her, started to sort of melt away, and it worked. It worked really well, but it worked in the here and now, and it really didn't depend so much on understanding the past.
Yeah.
Right.
But there is something to be said about recalling past events in therapy or in general, even with friends. What actually does happen is an opportunity to rewrite your memories. Right? Because it's like you're recalling something. And what we now know is that when you recall from a neuroscience perspective, when we recall a memory, we, to some degree, disrupt it. We know it in animal models so much, when they recall a memory, you can prevent new protein synthesis. I'm maybe getting too technical, but new protein synthesis really, like in order for long-term memory to re-solidify, you need new protein synthesis. You completely erase their memories. So basically, by recalling something, you disrupt the memory, and you have a chance to not just like create a causal connection. I think it's actually more powerful to change the actual memory, to edit it, to suit you more now to where you are now.
So that's why everyone's memories of the same experience are very different.
Very
because
different.
over time they're thinking about it and they're changing
constantly
it.
editing it. Constantly, and can be affected by how other people talk to you about it, how you recall it. It's very, very, memory is very vulnerable.
Tenuous.
And it's in a good way, I think.
I'm with you, and I am concerned about kind of modern pop psychology, and for all the reasons we're listing. One thing I found about going through my past when I actually did real therapy, starting 5 years ago, I guess, I was telling these stories that I had told a million times. But in this context with this man, I do believe I was feeling the emotions attached to those feelings that I had never let myself feel. And I feel like I got to actually cry when I was telling the story for the first time. And I felt like I was allowing myself to experience and grieve for something I just never made space for because I thought it might have killed me. So for me, I felt like there was utility in it. And then I had delayed the emotional response to some of these things for so long, and that once I had the emotional response, they got smaller in my mind. It's because like I knew somehow on the other side of that door was crying, and I was just not going to go there. And then once I did that part, I did feel like it liberated me to go forward. Is there
completely? So that's the second. The first part is the sort of recreating, actually re-editing those memories.
Yeah.
And the second part is that when you sit together with someone that you trust.
Yeah.
And how often do we get to talk about those really difficult moments or intimate moments and recall them with someone that you fully trust, that you have a very unique, because therapeutic relationship is unlike any other relationship in the world. That you can open up and they're there just to listen and to help you and to understand you. And if you feel that connection, again, it's sort of, they give you the secure base to be able to process some of the information and really change it in a way that now actually feels more secure. So that's the thing. And actually, a lot of studies show that it doesn't really matter so much the modality of the treatment. You know, there's CBT, there's IPT, there's all these different types of treatments. But actually, it's more about the fit with the therapist. So again, we come back to that attachment thing. Of how well do you feel that you connect with someone and how much attachment is a powerful. So attachment, I like to say that attachment is both at the base of suffering and healing from suffering, because we remember the strange situation, how effective it can be in regulating our emotions. So I know we have an attachment hierarchy in our head. We all have it. And I know that if something bad happens to me, I know exactly who's number one I'm going to go to, who's number two. You see, you're all nodding because you know too. I know exactly who to go to. And that's very important for our brain because it needs to. And then if I'm securely attached to them, many times, most of the time, a single word from them or a sentence or even a hug will calm me down immediately. There's just no Xanax or Klonopin in this world that can be as powerful. And no wonder, because it works on so many different neurotransmitters all together, like opiates, oxytocin, dopamine, you name it, it works on those and other things that we haven't discovered yet. So it's so powerful, but the opposite is also true. Insecure attachments can be the most powerful instigator of emotional distress. So attachment is the basis of both suffering and healing from suffering. And part of the reason why I wrote this book is kind of like to really try to shift people towards that sort of like getting better and making things work for you better than being stuck in that sort of like place where you constantly, your brain constantly is surveying and feels that danger.
So interesting.
Another part of the book talks about hidden sparks of talent and biological diversity and hidden sparks of talent.
Oh, please tell us about that.
So when you become a scientist, you see that there's like, a molecular neuroscientist, you see the enormity of molecular diversity that we all possess and how different it is. And we know it because we all look a little bit different. And we all have these different abilities, even just like even just in the way that we can flip our tongue, or like even with our finger, all these different things.
Yeah.
But also, it goes way, way further than that. Evolution loves diversity. It's kind of like one of the best ways that we can survive, one of the best survival mechanisms. But we don't really fully appreciate how diverse we are, and also in our talents. And not only that oftentimes people, especially people with insecure attachment, sometimes their biggest talents they perceive as impediments. But here, like a hidden spark of talent that someone actually identified was your math ability. And so when you lean into that ability, how it can really profoundly change your world.
Well, it was dominoes, right?
Exactly.
It's like, if I'm actually good at math, maybe I can be good at other things.
Right. And so I find that when people can learn to identify both theirs and other people's hidden sparks of talent, it really changes the way that they look at others and themselves. So for example, if someone is actually very, very generous, but they give to everyone, but his wife doesn't like that he gives to everyone, but he gives to you also a lot too. You can't just decide, I want him to be generous to me and sort of mean to everybody else. It doesn't work that way. It's almost like a hidden spark of talent. So when you learn to look at things that way, you say, oh, wow, actually, I see that. I don't have to resent that he gives and he gives and he gives. I'm also the recipient of that giving.
Yeah.
So I can see that as a hidden spark of biological talent.
Yeah. I think it's easy to, as you said, it's a system that's scanning how available someone is. So you could misread that as a lack of availability because they're available for other people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Now you're like talking from the attachment logic.
Yeah.
Because am I being left out?
Yeah.
Am I being left out?
This scarcity.
But that's where we can really learn to transcend our biology by using metacognition, basically.
Yeah.
So metacognition, how we think about our thoughts.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait a second. Yeah, I mean, I have that Cyberball effect. Am I feeling? But hey, and that's where also it's good to have. I call that secure people in your life, a secure buddy.
Yeah.
Where like if you get upset, and that's what I do like in the secure therapy, I do sort of like real time sometimes with text.
Yeah.
I would sort of text like, well, but you're also the recipient of it, and it actually doesn't take away from you.
Yeah.
And you teach them a secure way of looking at things, that secure love is actually bountiful and not scarce. Remember, like secure relationships are not about being attached at the hip. All it needs is like a little bit more acknowledgement. So like a little bit more texting or more, you know what the other thing is? It's actually say, well, I wish you were here. Or actually also remember that hyper-connectedness to always give an opportunity, if possible, to include. It's too bad you can't come. Everybody talked about you. Everybody mentioned you.
Yeah.
So there's a psychological way of including people, even if they're not there.
Yeah.
Everybody talked about you. Oh my God, everybody mentioned like, how come? And then even in the middle of a dinner, hey, like this food, you would have loved it. So like you're included even if you're not there.
Yeah.
It's easy to do it.
Yeah, I feel like just like telling people you miss them is so huge because like I'm thinking about you. I know you're not here. I'm thinking about you.
Exactly.
It's like a lovely way to include people.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there anything I've left out that you would want to cover?
I think I don't know if I actually really defined. I should have done it. I always tell, like, put myself on the head. Like, I should define those attachment styles early on. Should I define it just in case if you wanted to?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So it all has to do with how comfortable we feel with intimacy and closeness, but also how sensitive radar we have to potential danger in the relationship. So if we have an anxious attachment style, we love closeness and intimacy, but we also have a very sensitive radar to a potential danger. If someone doesn't become available, we notice it right away. And that can lead to thoughts of like being rejected, like take things personally. So that's the anxious attachment. And then secure attachments are people who are warm and loving, and they love a lot of closeness, like as much as you can give them, but they're also not sensitive to danger in their relationship. So if you don't give them that much closeness, they're fine with it too. They just don't see, oh my God, something is wrong. They don't like me anymore. No, it just goes over their head. So that's secure attachment. And avoidant, people who have an avoidant attachment style, They also want relationships because we're social species, but they just don't feel too comfortable with too much closeness. They want you, but they want you from a little bit of a distance. And so they find ways of creating that distance so they can feel more comfortable.
What might that look like? Because when you say the anxious attachment, I think we all can, you can think of like your big friendship group, and you can think of the ones that are like really upset and monitoring when they've been invited and when they've not. And I mean, this is a brag, but it's like, I don't notice that, right? Like, I don't notice on Instagram.
It's not a brag. It's just, it is what it is.
This group was at dinner.
Yes,
it doesn't even cross my mind. So, like, to me, that's a very obvious example. So what does the avoidant one look like?
I'm glad that you said that you don't notice that, because that's, secures don't notice it oftentimes. But if they're asked to do it, they will do it.
Yeah, right.
Avoidance, they have a harder time with it because they have this worldview that you have to be independent, you have to be self-reliant, and they are to themselves, but they don't understand. We said they're about 25% of the population.
Yeah.
They don't understand that they're the minority. They're not the majority. Most people need other people to help, like when they're in time of need, when they come to you.
Yeah.
So when you come to them in time of need, it's like, what do you want from me? Take care of it. But then it actually triggers your even more. It's like, no, now you become the center of their problem. I'm coming for help and you're not helping me. They forget about the bad thing that happened to them, and now you're the bad thing that's happened to them.
Yeah.
So they fall into these like constant traps, unknowingly often, not knowing how to manage. Like, no, you're the minority report. You need to understand that other people, like when people come to you, they can't deal with it on their own.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing, sometimes they create a lot of closeness. Well, they spend a really amazing weekend together. Everything is very intense and fun. And then comes Monday and they need their time. Okay, we've had enough, right? And they think they have this idea that they can carry it forward like credit. But attachment doesn't work that way. It doesn't carry. It's a radar.
Exactly.
And so they actually disappear. And lo and behold, they do the opposite of what they intended to do. They actually increased the change, the delta. And now you're actually even more, what's happening? Why are you not answering?
It feels like love bombing.
Yeah, they don't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, why are you disappearing all of a sudden? So they create that sort of like a lot of like, remember the consistency, available, responsive? Like they don't know that they're like, they don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yes, but they don't even understand what's happening.
Right. They're like, yeah, don't you feel filled up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that happens is that when they feel, sometimes when they get too close too quickly, they don't pace themselves because they kind of like, no, I want this to happen. I want it to work now. I've looked for all these people and it doesn't work and now I want it. So they get very close real fast, but then, because they think all the other people that I met, they weren't the one. This person's going to be one. I may just swoop in and go in like full force to make it work. But that's exactly what they don't need to do, because the problem is not that they weren't into that person. They were into all these other people. The problem is that there's too much closeness for comfort, and then they have these deactivating strategies like, oh, I don't know if I like this person. I don't like how they chew. I like all these little things that they start
their
seeing.
toenails.
There's these deactivating strategies to increase so they have to learn to pace themselves, and they have to learn not to get, I call it the closeness overdose, because then they're going to sound like, no, this is suffocating. I don't want you anymore.
Right.
And then again, they create this sort of push-pull.
Yeah.
So you can teach them how to create like a more how to sort of engage in more carp scenes, basically.
Yeah. And I heard you say, did you once say that your one of your criticisms of your own book, Attached, would be that you didn't necessarily give the avoidant.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, the
That's
avoidant
true.
group as much
feel-
compassion as maybe they deserve.
I feel this is my amends, but it's not entirely my fault. This book is definitely my amends to the avoidance, and not just mine. I have to say also just the research in general, because research is also biased, and the questions that people ask are biased.
Yeah.
And I feel that in this book, I really present a much more biological explanation of avoidance. It's not necessarily, again, blaming the mothers, like that your parents were not responsive to you. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
And I really make a strong case of it.
Yeah.
But I really think that we presented the data, the science, and they show, they have a wandering eye, they don't take care of you so well if you're sick. And so we just wrote it out there. Yeah. But then over the years, working with avoidance.
Are you laughing at me?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's laughing at me. When someone gets sick, I'm like, just go deal with it, man. I do.
Yeah, he's like, we all get sick.
Yeah, we all get sick. What is it? Yeah.
Exactly. You see, but it's like, right.
I was sick too, but I didn't fucking bother you with it. Yeah, yeah.
Right, exactly, because they don't. They don't bother other people.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm so guilty of it, yeah. What's happening biological with me? Why, yeah.
So biologically, that's why I give an example in the book of C. elegans, which is like a tiny worm that neuroscientists love because they have, again, huge neurons. And they can be manipulated and experimented on. So in C. elegans, they found that they have two types of feeding behavior: solitary feeding behavior and social feeding behavior. And so they eat E. coli. And so...
Thank God.
Yeah,
we don't want it.
I know. So when when the social ones they detect E. coli, you see like a whole like pile of worms voraciously eating.
No, thank you.
Yeah. And then
I hate that image.
I know, I'm sorry, but it's important because the solitary one, if one swims, you can see it in there, if one swims in that direction, they swim the other way. They're chemotactically repelled by the other worms, and it's a change in a single amino acid, in a single protein. They can switch solitary to social and vice versa.
Yeah, that's very
So the case that I'm trying to make is that this preference for closeness and distance is like a lot of it is also biologically driven.
Yeah.
And we can see it everywhere around us. Like even you can see in pets, some people say some dogs are like cats. They don't like to be that close. They actually will stay away. It's like, okay, I like you from a distance. Some cats will stick to you and they actually are not that separate as you would think. And you can see it in birds and you can see it in people. Some people feel more comfortable with more closeness, and there's a big spectrum.
Yeah.
But if we can also focus on the here and now and make like these changes that can really lead us to be in secure mode, which is kind of like really flourishing. It's a way to flourish in the world, to feel safe, to not worry all the time. It's so much so, and that's kind of like chapter 4 in the book. I write about energy in the brain because you really have to understand that the brain is a huge energy guzzler. It can't really get reinforcements. It can only deal with the amount of energy that it gets. It can't increase the blood flow all of a sudden, like our muscles can or when we eat. That's not possible for the brain because it's encased in the skull, and the pressure will mount and we'll have a bleed. So you get the amount of energy that you get, which is 20%, which is a huge amount. Yeah, I mean, the brain is 2%. But he's taking 20%. In children, even more, like 5-year-olds, it's like 50%. It's kind of crazy. And then all that you can do is you can divert energy from one area to the brain to the other. So if you feel safer, and especially those prefrontal areas that are we think and abstract and create, and these are the ones that are most energy heavy. So when you create a safer, like a secure mode environment for yourself, you can free up that energy to sort of be diverted more to thinking, like the child in this strange situation, like playing, doing things. It's not just about, this is nice to me, I don't really have to worry about what the other person is doing. It's really more about like, this frees up energy to actually achieve more.
And then the last thing, and this is now stemming from immediate defensiveness, obviously, it's also, I think, tempting for us to label ourselves one thing across all domains, right? So it's like I could be avoidant in this caregiving of an illness. And then if you call me for AA, I've got unlimited time for you, right?
Totally. I think that's the promising part of this whole book, our versatility and our ability to sort of like to change, to understand, to accept certain things. And also like knowing, so if you're not such a great person when you get sick, then like, why shouldn't I call someone else? Like, well, no, I'm serious. Why does one person have to do everything?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, great. Amir, this is awesome. Please, everyone, check out Secure, the Revolutionary Guide to Creating a Secure Life. This is just so encouraging and hopeful, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was fun, actually. I was a little nervous about it, but I enjoyed it.
We aim to be fun. All right, be well.
Thank you.